Let me throw that question out in terms of how has the NHS failed you? We were talking yesterday about this assisted dying bill, and one of the kind of offshoot conversations of that were people. We had a couple of really powerful calls on this. People who've been told, by a hospital, there's nothing we can do for you. Make your plans, as it were. A couple of months later, second opinion later. And in one case, a guy who called us his mother living for another 10 years, dying of natural causes, of old age, as it were. Extraordinary. There are lots of these kind of cases, and, sometimes the NHS gets away with it because we don't follow it up. My dad had a cancer operation some years ago. He's no longer with us. He had two, in fact, but the first one he had was not followed up with any kind of chemotherapy, or there was vague talk of maybe some radiotherapy, because the surgeon said, well, we think it's going to be okay. We think it's all right. There's a couple of little areas we need to keep our eye on. And it was looking all right for a bit. And then, a year or so down the line, oh dear, it's come back again. Now, that would be a massive failure. I think that is a failure of the NHS. At the time, we just thought, well, this is what happens with cancer. Sometimes it stays with you and you die within weeks, and other times you can live with it for years and decades, and other times they get rid of it and it never returns. You just keep having it checked up. We put it down to that. There's a kind of a bit of a lottery with health. Looking back on it, I don't think today I would allow that to have a free pass. I'd want to know why there was no chemotherapy. This is a fairly substantial cancer operation. Wasn't followed up by chemo. Now, the surgeon seemed like a pretty top chap. We chatted to him. He did give reasons why there was no chemo, but sensing it now, I'm thinking, yeah, the NHS absolutely did fail us in that respect. Now, who knows? Maybe they could have given the chemo. It could have still come back. I know that. But you give everything you'd like to think a fighting chance. What's interesting here is that failing hospitals will be revealed in a kind of league table. It's another great government speak, isn't it? An NHS manager sacked if they do not turn things around. This is according to Wes Streeting, the health secretary. He's been speaking at that conference in Liverpool. He's promising a no-holds-barred sweeping review of NHS performance in England. Do you know, I sense I've heard a variation of that kind of phrase from successive health secretaries. There's going to be a league table, name and shame, get rid of the bad people. Surely if you're a failing hospital, the person in charge of the hospital should walk the plank, shouldn't they? Wouldn't that go with the territory? Hospitals can expect to be ranked on indicators like care delivery as well as finances, so patients can see whether they are receiving a good service. It's a bit like when we were first told you can shop around for your consultant. Have a little look around. If you don't like the one in that postcode, then look elsewhere and you'll be able to nominate. Do you think I want them all to be kind of pretty much equally as skilled if they are carrying the title consultant or, senior clinician of some kind. I want them all to be able to do it very, very well. Top-level stuff. So hospitals can expect this coming around the corner. Mr. Streeting has been unequivocal about his idea that he wants to clamp down on poor performance while rewarding success. He said there will be no more turning a blind eye to failure. Is that what we've been doing? He says we will drive the health service to improve so patients get more out of it for what taxpayers put in. Our health service must attract top talent, be far more transparent to the public who pay for it, and run as efficiently as global businesses. We keep hearing this. As long as you've got professional kind of character, the people that, we've talked about this before, people who find themselves on boards and committees, usually many of them, all the time, and you discover, there's a certain person that has got themselves... That woman, Paula Venables, that ran the post office, a classic example. It's called the Peter Principle in action. This is what I think. Look it up. I won't explain it now, but, somewhere along the line, somebody went, oh, that Paula Venables, yeah, she's really good. Give her a big job in whatever area, communications and now the post office. And nobody stopped to ask if she's really very good. With no evidence at all, she's shun up the corporate ladder like Billio, trousering massive pay packages in the process. Turns out she wasn't very good. Nobody stopped to ask. And I swear, half of these characters that get jobs as the most senior manager in the NHS, they're not clinically qualified, but they're sort of professionals that go from those kind of job to job. You know, previously they were the sales director at BT or something, and then the next minute they're the head honcho of a health trust somewhere. Well, okay, yeah, I can see why you would apply some business knowledge to situations like health, and Streeting has recognised that. You don't want people squandering the cash on silly projects like spending 50 grand on some artwork to go in the hospital foyer or some kind of clay installation in the A&E department. Nobody wants to see all of that nonsense. We've been through all of that. So saving a bit of money along the way. But my question to you really is, how has the NHS failed you? And what was it that happened that made you conclude beyond any shadow of a doubt that whatever the heck was happening here should not be happening? That this was a catastrophic failure. And it comes to a real head when that failure becomes a risk or a compromise to your health. And in some cases, that failure becomes absolutely lethal. And when you're in those situations, then you realise you're at the coalface of the problem. How has the NHS failed you?